Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Empowered Eczema podcast. We have a special guest today. We have Maisy. She is a health enthusiast, and we actually met on Instagram. I copied one of her reels, gave her credit for it, and we have been friends online ever since. So I wanted to bring her onto this podcast for her to introduce herself to you. She has worked through her own healing journey as well, just like our stories of myself and those who are listening. While she doesn't have eczema, I think you guys will be very interested into what she has to say because she has experience with mold, and mold and eczema can be highly, highly linked. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So great to be here.
So let's just kind of start with who are you? Like, what is your history with health and how did you kind of get into it? What were the major struggles that you had with your health? Because even though this is mostly an eczema podcast, people have a lot of overlapping conditions.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I was put into the health sphere quite young because I had so much like childhood issues. I just had always like reoccurring infections, like tonsillitis, like every other month sort of thing. I had these infections just popping out of everywhere. And then when I'd treat them with antibiotics, and then I'd have even more symptoms and things like that popping up. So I feel like, yeah, I maybe even had like this, especially in my childhood, like maybe reoccurring like infections. And then it's actually funny to say, I did get a lot of eczema around my mold exposure time. And I know now, yeah, mold is a big, big part of maybe my health journey and the like issues and infections and symptoms I had as a child. And even now, as I'm like, it's one of those things, mold's everywhere, annoyingly. It's like, but just building your body's resilience to it and maybe yeah, knowing how to spot the signs and things like that, I feel like is really a big part of maybe why I created my Instagram page and yeah, spreading awareness and why I'm studying natural medicine on the side. Yeah, that's kind of me now as I'm studying how to heal from these sorts of things. Yeah, which is really awesome.
I'm going to pry a little bit more into your personal life because hearing other people's struggles helps people not feel so alone. And that's one of the purposes of this podcast is I was talking to a lot of people who were taking medication for eczema, and it was infuriating because the aftermath of that was so bad that I was like, people have to hear other people's experiences with this because to know that they're not alone. And so, like, you dealt with some health issues growing up, and I know, like, your mom was pretty healthy, and
Mm.
like,
Yeah.
kind of dive into what that childhood looked like with those struggles with your health.
Yes, okay, exactly. So I feel like it was maybe I'd always had these like ear infections and stuff, but we never really thought anything of it. And like digestive issues, like popping up and allergies, maybe popping up out of nowhere. But we never really, I just feel like, so when I'm 23 now, so like that was maybe good at least 15, like 13 years ago. And like allergy wise, like health wise, there wasn't that much understanding really of if you're having severe like constipation as a kid. It likely isn't an allergy. Allergy is like you just making that up. You know what I mean? Like gluten allergies, no, 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 you're just making that up. It's a fad. You know what I mean? Things like that just didn't exist back then. So I feel like even though my mum and dad were really into health and always doing like loved functional testing and working with natural doctors, there wasn't actually really that much deeper diving into maybe why I had these issues or symptoms, or like I had a test and I got shown that I had insulin resistance at maybe age like 13, age 14, and like we never really looked why, you know what I mean? We had these, it was almost like a Western perspective, find the symptoms and then just treat them with the natural side of medicine, which I feel like even like as a studying like herbalist, this is one thing I'm really cautious of doing maybe in the future, is just putting that band-aid. You have this symptom, so it's just we fix it with that herb, you know what I mean? Things like that. Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, I grew up, my parents were always into nutrition and always really pushing the nutrition. Oh, you eat this, this is good for you, and you're not allowed to eat that. But I feel like maybe as a kid, I always, when you're not told why, like why aren't we allowed chocolate? Why aren't we allowed these blue sweeties that everyone else is allowed? I feel like there was quite a lot of rebellion in me against it, maybe pushing it away because I just didn't really know why. And then maybe it was only when I was about like 18 to like maybe even 20, so like even like 3 years ago, where I properly was like delving into like why I still was getting ill all the time, why had like such bad brain fog I couldn't even like make sentences properly like some days. So it was like when I properly d delved into all this and then found the mold and maybe all the other toxicities I had, like metals, I've got quite high copper, things like that. And then I was finally like, okay, so maybe health isn't just about eating healthy or, demonizing these foods and stuff. Maybe it is actually just supporting your body, nourishment, maybe rather than I feel like I was thrusted into health because of maybe the more aesthetical and like fluffy, oh, you need to eat this because then you'll feel good, you'll look good. But I never actually thought about, if you eat a certain way, you can actually nourish your body to be able to heal and maybe push these toxicities out and yeah, just like thrive in the modern world we live in, where there's quite a lot of thick wings working against us, maybe. Yeah.
So you brought up some interesting things, which was like you didn't really realize what was going on until you found out like you had heavy metals, like you had copper or you had mold exposure. What was
Yeah.
that story of realization or testing? What did that look like for you to be like, oh my gosh. And also the brain fog thing,
Mm.
I feel you on that. I
Yeah.
went through a period of time where my brain, oh my gosh, especially by like 1 p.m. I mean, I
Mhm.
might as well just like shut off
Yeah.
for the day. Like I had no ability to think at that time.
Yeah, it's just that feeling of being asleep when you're awake, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what just happened?" Or like when you're even driving home and you're autopilot, and all of a sudden you're like, when did my brain actually turn off?" I'm all of a sudden I'm home. Like, what the hell? Like, yeah, it's so crazy. But yeah, I've actually forgotten what the question just was.
Oh,
That
as far as
was
like
ironic.
testing and everything, like
Okay.
where, what was your breaking point or who did you turn to be like, what's wrong with me? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, how did you find out it was mold? How did you find out about the excess copper? Everything like
Mm.
that.
Yeah, so I feel like it was when I was around maybe 19 or 20. I just had my mental health like once I left school, my mental health just like nosedived so bad. I got like a waitressing job and I was just so burnt out. And I remember I gained so much weight and my hair was so fragile and I just felt I was just really at a like a low point of like health and just like my mood and the way I felt. And I was like, I need to do something about this because I felt like there was a lot of issues had popped up out of nowhere, or maybe slowly popped up, and then I all of a sudden was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I just can't keep living this way. So then I went to a natural doctor, and I'd actually worked with one from the same clinic for the past maybe 2 years before this, but we'd never deep dived into actual what toxicities it could be. It was just more blood test, you're deficient in this, take this vitamin, things like that. And then yeah, I just knew then it started off I did a hormone test and my progesterone was like menopausal level. There was like none there. And my estrogen was crazy high and my cortisol was crazy high. And like the doctor kind of just went, this is weird because like you're I'm in evolutionary perspective, I'm in my prime and it's like my progesterone was the worst like ever. So this is when we got the detective. We need to try and find out what's causing this sort of thing. So we went down loads of different routes. We're like, could it be a cyst on the pituitary gland that's then stopping the production of these hormones, or all these different alleyways? And then finally, they did a mole test because a few of the routine questions might have flagged something. But I was like, maybe in my school it could have been. And then it came back, and it was something like I think it was 20 my original one was I think 25 times the limit of what the mold should be, which was crazy. Which like he saw it and it was like, oh my God, this is it. Like this is what's definitely caused this. Um, and like interestingly, the one of the ones I'm highest in, it's called zearalenone, the mycotoxin, is like a known estrogen mimicker. So it's just really funny how I was getting all these really crazy high estrogen symptoms, and it literally, I was highest in the estrogen mimicking mold, which is, yeah, crazy. Like, which is why maybe a lot of people listening, if you know you've got mold and you're getting like really horrific periods or like really awful mood swings or, or like breast pain before your period, and these really high estrogen symptoms, then it could be worth like drawing the link of, I had this, oh my God, no way, this was it. Like, yeah. So it's super interesting. Then when I like actively again, because I know I've still got stores in my body, because and maybe I'll do brief. Yeah, the way mold like is stored in the body. So it's like when you're living in, let's say this room I'm in now is moldy. I'm breathing it in my sinuses right now, and it'll all the spores will then go into your body through your nose when you're breathing, if you're a nose breather. Yeah, and then these spores can over time like accumulate and like colonize in the sinus cavities, or then they can go further down, then they can get like these overgrowths in your gut as well. Which is then maybe why people will have these like IBS or IBD, things like that, where your gut has just been like absolutely exploded with just like the really aggressive like mycotoxins that colonize in there. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of deep diving recently into the maybe digestive sort of stuff, and I just never even clicked that it could have been mold. And like they did some studies on like mice in labs that I think was in within 8 weeks of giving them moldy feed, like they had visual leaky gut, which is like crazy because I had like all these allergies pop up out of nowhere. I'm like, that so was it again.
Do you
I just
know what exposed you to the mold? Like, can you, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's tricky to say because I know in England, I feel like maybe just this is like all over the world sort of thing because we're living in these airtight boxes where when the winter it gets super cold outside, we're all pumping out this heating and then like you're getting like the condensation on the glass and the mold will start forming in the home. So I feel like through my life, I probably had, I'd say there's been a lot of exposures. Like when you go on holiday, you stay in a moldy house or you stay in like a moldy hotel room. I've had that a few times. But my theory is that it was at school because I went to school at this like Victorian, converted like house into a school sort of thing. And I remember the top floor really freaking me out. And I remember there'd be peeling paint, like these signs of mold, like peeling paint, smelling just very damp and very strange, like very like musty. And that's what we say in England. I don't know if you say that in America as well, but yeah. And just like these the body knows when it's been exposed to like mold and like these like sorts of toxins. You'll think about it and you'll get heebie-jeebies. And it's like I look back at school and this top floor, like really the idea of it really freaks me out. You know what I mean? So like I think it could be that.
What was the
Um
process of detoxing like from mold? This isn't a subject that I have dove into very much. And so if someone's like listening and they're like, yeah, 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 this sounds like me and sounds like my experience and my symptoms,
Yeah.
you went through a detoxification process. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I feel like it again. This is because I only became aware of it about 4 years ago of like the mold and how to get it out. I'd say the first 2 years where I was trying to get rid of it, I didn't at all. If I was to go back, I would have completely changed my approach. So I started off just by taking binders, and I started off taking. Um, Interestingly, it's the same like sort of supplement protocol I'm on now. So I love like personally, I feel like I really tolerate charcoal, like activated charcoal, really well. I feel that's quite a gentle binder compared to maybe like chlorella or the zeolite and things like that. Personally, I don't know. I don't get on with those as well. I find charcoal, it works really well for me. So like daily just before bed, like 2 hours away from food and other supplements, I'll take the charcoal and then I'll take the like mold killer sort of complex. So it's like things like naturally antifungal, like garlic. I'm trying to think of all the other ones in this list. But
Acrylic
yeah,
acid, oregano
yeah, yeah,
oil,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
black
yeah.
walnut.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, so like a complex like that. So I feel like yeah, 2 years ago I was just doing the same as that now. But I just didn't consider that, yes, maybe that's, they say binders are like the a magnet pulling magnet shavings through your body. Yes, it does attract it out, but then it leaves these shavings all over because you're not fully sticking to everything. It's like snake shaking up a snow globe of your like mold, so to speak. Yeah, whenever you take these binders, and I was maybe if you're not as well, if you're not pooping once a day, like you're just kicking things up and letting it recirculate without actually getting it out. So I feel like for 2 years I just had such horrific symptoms. Every time I would start this like these two gentle supplements again, I would just get these like this like flare up of rash I'd get here so bad. like redness. Even right now, I'm actually flushing because I've started taking oregano oil again this week. Like you can see my face is like literally red when I do that because it gives you these histamine reactions like out of nowhere. You'll have flushing and stuff like that. So I feel like it's through assessing the supporting the lymphatic system and all the other body's systems of getting these toxins out, dry brushing, trampolining, things like that, coffee enemas, assessing every single one of these detox pathways and helping the body get the toxins out rather than just shaking the snow globe. Yeah.
So, okay, to let me make sure I understand fully and you can tell me, yeah, I'm understanding. So, when we think about this, if you're kind of just targeting maybe the gut in a sense, where you're taking these supplements,
Yep.
you're kind of scattering and leaving behind little pieces, and it's not fully detoxing the full body. But when you combine it with other detoxification pathways or techniques, you're able to more fully get it out of your system. So it's more of a holistic process than like
Yeah.
just do coffee enemas and you're all
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, just have oregano oil and you'll be fine. Yeah, this is the thing. It's like it's amazing that I just feel like marketing, there's so many things, so many people have you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. But it's actually just getting back to the basics of helping your body just get because the mold as well, it's like not just on the surface level. It's not just like you can take a tablet and it'll get kill it. It's like mold resides in the cells. So it's like they could be at the tip of your finger, the mold, I don't know. Or it could be, deep. It's like Lyme's disease as well. It's one of these things where when you try and tackle it, Lyme's disease is literally like the Lyme like bacteria goes into your bones. Like it's literally that deep on like it's such a deep level that it's like supporting maybe the your body from a cellular level, getting your mitochondria to have the energy to be able to then kick them out, fight from that like micro level is so cool. I feel like that's the way to go is just giving the body the fuel it needs and maybe things like
That's
that.
why it's so holistic, right? It's
Yeah.
just like eczema too, where I had a client, we were doing everything right, diet was spot on, supplements spot on, but so she worked all week long and then every weekend she ran, not literally run, but like she would be on the go from like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And there was no time for her body to literally rest and
Yeah.
repair, which is such a huge part of all of this too.
Yeah, literally completely. It's funny you say that because I feel like for years I had this. If I'm, I feel like it's just built in everyone. If you're resting, you're wasting time, not that you could spend like being productive, like going on a walk, going to the gym, going reading a book or things like that. It's like actually learning to just chill out and give the body the time it needs to rest when you're feeling ill or when you're feeling stressed. It's like so important. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you're studying herbalism. Kind of talk to us a little bit about that and maybe like what you're finding really interesting or even where you want to go with it. And it's okay if you don't know where you want to go with it
Yeah.
yet. But kind of talk to us about what that journey has been like. What kind of sparked you wanting to get into it?
I feel like it definitely was through maybe my own health struggles and then my dad as well, because he got Lyme's disease. And it was around the same time I got into health. So it was around 2020 when lockdown hit. And we were going on loads of walks and he got bitten by a tick. And then all of a sudden the next day he just woke up and like he couldn't really move properly because his back was just in so much pain. He couldn't move and he was so anxious then the next few days he was just, I've never seen him that anxious before. He was just like couldn't sit still, was just walking every round. Ugh, you know what I mean? That just like nervous energy like that. And I feel like seeing that and seeing maybe the modern medicine, our like Western approach to it, take antibiotics for a week and you'll be fine. And he did that and he wasn't fine. So it was like it was through the all the different natural practices that he actually was able to heal himself. And I feel like I saw that and I was like, that's so powerful. I need to learn how to be, I want to be that like European grandmother with all the wisdom that you go to and she gives you all like the weird witchy herbal brews. That's what I want to be when I'm older. That's like, yeah.
That's amazing. That's a really beautiful and personal story too, to kind of like watch your dad's transformation and how powerful herbal treatments can be and holistic treatments can be. So, as far as how people can find you or work with you or talk to you, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I feel like I share like a lot of the way I interact with the world is through my Instagram page. It's like Mystically Well on Instagram. I feel like I love posting recipes or like even just as I'm learning. I feel like especially on my stories, like if I've learned something that's blown my mind, I'm gonna try and get it across to people in at least one way, like through stories or stuff like that. And yeah, and I have started doing online coaching, which I've been really enjoying to get that like maybe more personal approach because I feel like you know this more than anyone that when you have these like symptoms pop up like eczema or like you have these detox symptoms, it can be so like scary and like disheartening to have to work on them alone and to like not know how to heal yourself. So maybe when you find these people like you who've like had this amazing past experience where you've like just sorted yourself out and you've cracked the code, that it's like it's such a beautiful thing to be able to offer help and like support through people doing that. So I feel like I've only just dipped my toe in it, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Yeah, which is really nice.
Amazing. So if you want to contact Maisie, I'll have all of her links in the description below. I'll have a link to her coaching, a link to her Instagram, and she downplayed herself. She has really amazing recipes on
Thank
Instagram. I found her through a lot of her recipes relating to gelatin, and gelatin's really, really repairing, especially to repair the skin itself. So go check out her recipes on there. She makes marshmallows and jello and all
Yeah.
kinds of really cool stuff on there. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. And yeah.
So much for having me. I feel like it's so cool to talk about these topics. Like to even talk about them again, you're like you start bringing stuff up and you're like, wow, that's actually why I do it. It's so cool. Yeah.
Find your passion again. You find your
Yeah,
why behind all of it.
yeah, literally, exactly. Yeah, that's inspired me. I need to go do some more coursework, I think. I've been putting off a while.
Well, thank you so much. And yeah, like I said, all of her links will be in the description down below. And thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.